Call the FNA meeting to order. And we'll start with City Clerk will note attendance. And we'll move right into approval of the agenda. Are there any alterations or questions in regards to the agenda as presented? Unless there are objections, I'm going to remove the executive session at the end. We're without city attorney tonight, so we'll cover that elsewhere. Okay. With that noted change, are there any objections to the agenda? No. All right, we'll take the agenda as presented with that one change as approved. All right. Are there any individuals in the meeting here wishing to make a comment before the committee? Please note, online comments are not currently taken. There are online individuals wishing to make comments. They can email those either to the city clerk or to council members, and we will see it. Anybody in here wishing to make public comment? Come on.
Okay, I'll make.
You are public.
Okay, I just wanted to let council know that we received the exit interview for the audit today. And I believe our finance director will be sending you out an email with a link to the presentation. And it was a clean audit. So congratulations, Drew. Congratulations, finance team. Thank you for all the hard work. On to 2023. I think I got the right year.
On to 2023.
Yeah, on to 2023.
They expressed hopes of actually getting current, so we shall see. All right. That will move on to the minutes. Approval of the minutes dated September 17th, 2024. Are there any revisions or questions in regards to the minutes as in the agenda? Nope. Chair has none either. Any objections to approval of the minutes as presented? All right, we will take the minutes as presented as approved. Move on to approval of warrants claims report, consideration claims report dated October 14th, 2024. Chair has no questions or comments. Any of the committee members have questions or comments?
No.
In addition, Chair is actually up to date on email and has no questions or comments in email in regards to that. All right. Any objections to taking the claims report as presented as approved? All right. Claims report is approved. Let's move on to agenda bill. Agenda bill AB 24086, network infrastructure modernization.
Hello, everyone. Finally getting the chance to get this in front of you since I've arrived. I know you've probably seen bits and pieces of this a couple of times. To do a quick intro to this bill, this is it's been several years since the city's network's been updated. We have old switches that are out of date, and it no longer meets our demands as a city. Yeah, like I said, they're out of support. And also upgrading the network is essential to ensure that we continue to have efficient systems, and also we're able to move forward with changes or moves. Right now, we're kind of stuck in what we have. My goal was, when I got here originally, like I said, project goals are replace outdated switches, streamline the city's network to more modern standards. We are not, I can't share too much about how we're configured, but it's not to modern standards. I can tell you offline if you would like. It's a security thing. And I wanted to lay the foundation. You know, we met with our vendor who's online now, Voxy. They're here to answer any questions that come up for the technical details of what their plan. They've been working with us to work on a design and a plan. So they came in about a year ago, I would say, Andy. Yeah, to do a check on our current infrastructure. And then they came up with a basic proposal that I reviewed and thought it was a bit much. So we scaled it down quite a bit to make it a little less chunky. It was a full upgrade to everything in the environment. And I felt that wasn't fair to you guys and to our team to do all at once. So what I did is I cut down into smaller chunks so we can manage it and get it done by the end of the year. I believe we can do that based on the resources we have available. And so that is our goal. Next part is about our current infrastructure. I put a little graphic on there. I didn't want to share too much, but that is a section of our network. There's too many interconnects. It's just it expanded over time based on needs. Pretty much what I saw, you know, and it's way too complicated, and we should be doing things way more efficiently. And Avoxy is working with us to do that. They've come up with proposal to us as far as a proposed design. That was part of the process of the original where that's their drawing, actually part of their drawing, where they scoped out our network to tell us what we have, and then they propose what it could be. When I first got here, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good from what I've seen, you know, based on my experience in building network at the school district. So I was like, okay, let's move this forward. And yeah, and you know, they were just addressing issues in the moment, building on top of things. Unfortunately, they weren't cleaning up after themselves. That's the only negative I would say before, is they weren't cleaning up after themselves. So the new design is going to rebuild the entire network from the ground up. That means every switch will get reprogrammed. We're going to rebuild it to simplify, to make it flatter. And Holloway, we're going for more of an L2 design, which is, you know, routing layer, to a L3, which is the switch gateway layer, to a routed L3 design. So that's just a technical thing about it. Yeah, the team and I have spent quite a bit of time getting this kind of ready for you guys. I really appreciate Andy's time, and this new proposal is a little different than what was originally you probably seen because of Eric's time. He spent time with us to say, hey, you know, this equipment works really well. I really like, we've selected Juniper Networks for the network instead of Cisco. It was definitely a cost saving and a usability. It was way easier to configure the Juniper network versus the Cisco network. It saved us almost 30% of the cost to do all the switches. So we'll still have some Cisco switches in the network, but there'll be Juniper switches in the core in our server storage. But we still have some Cisco switches that are still in support currently that will keep up and running, and we can replace those at a later date. So yeah, like I said, our goal is to make it more efficient, and we want to make sure that we can grow. So one of the first things I pulled out was a high availability site at a different location, because I felt we needed more time to get rid of the old stuff we do have and build a leaner environment. Like I said, the first comment I made about there was a lot of building and not a lot of taking down. And for me, I felt that I wasn't quite comfortable enough to come to the council with more server purchases or anything like that without kind of cleaning the plate first. There's just a lot of older servers that need to go away. There's a lot of just infrastructure running that may not need to run, but we need to figure that out. And I need more time with Eric and Andy and Jimmy to kind of just go through it and make sure we're not, we're taking stuff that needs to go down, doesn't need to be running, and we're kind of consolidating things and making them more available. It's hard to explain it without going into security items, but I just wanted to mention that as well. All right, so what we're asking for the network switches for computer phones, Wi-Fi, and all that. We're asking for compute switches for the servers and storage. Those are currently Ethernet connections. We want to move to fiber, so that way we have availability later in the future to grow to faster speeds for those. So right now, they're 10 gigabit, and then we could go up to 25 to even to 100 if we ever wanted to in the future with fiber channel. So and these ports will support that. Yeah, we want to enhance our ability to have higher availability. It's a concept of, we're not just backing things up. If something goes wrong down in this valley, we have another location to spin over to. And that'll be the next phase of this project next year. Yeah, and also we're paying the vendor to help us install this because it's a lot of effort. And I can go into more detail about that bit as well. Avoxy's doing all our planning and design, and their help us implementation. They'll do all the mounting, swapping out the switches, documenting everything, making sure everything goes live. And our part is to make sure we're supported on the other side, make sure our virtual LAN is set up correctly. to match. All our servers are connecting back into the switches as we move forward. It's a complex process, but it's we've had good experience with Avoxy on these projects. All right, so this is the question part. I kind of kept it short so I can answer your questions. But if there's something I can go into detail with, I'm happy to. I have a lot of attachments, I know. I can talk about those if you'd like in the reasoning behind all that.
Okay, if you allow me. Let's start with the relationship with Avoxy. So Avoxy was an approved vendor out of Utah, and Washington is a partner in that or subsidiary in that agreement.
No, the NASPO agreement is the one we're using. I used it at the school district. It's a very recognized national contract for a pre-bid contract. So, Juniper, Avoxy is actually going through Juniper as their vendor on that contract. So this is the datacom addendum that Washington is part of. And so we bid off of that addendum.
Okay, and that's kind of my
underlying
question is why Avoxy?
Well, Avoxy was the originator of the project to help us, and I felt I was confident we could use them in this project. So they helped with the data storage emergency, and they did some fiber work to kind of figure out the fiber, if our fiber was good or bad. And I believe they did a environment study on that. Matt, can you talk a little bit about that for me?
Yes, I can. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Matt with Avoxy.
Hi, yeah, I'm Matt Casalino. I'm with Avoxy. I'm the primary engineer that did the majority of the work for you guys thus far. Like Fletcher was saying, we started with the storage installation and talking with Andrew. I understood that you had a larger kind of network project to take a look at. We were engaged to come in and do a network assessment of your environment. So in the process of doing that, I actually logged into basically every switch in the environment, traced all of the network connectivity, did all of the cabling, identified where everything is connected and how they're all connected together today. Which that previous slide that Fletcher had up there with the snippet of all of the individual components of the network, that's what I generated was a current state drawing of the environment so that we could look at what there was in there. From there, I took and built that into a routed layer 3 environment for all of the individual sites so that we could have connectivity and we could grow the city's needs, grow as the city's needs changed and grew there. So I think your original question is why Avoxy. I would say because I think at this point, I myself probably have the most knowledge of your network as it is today, which makes it a little bit easier for me and the rest of the team to come in and replace the equipment and reconfigure it to meet the goals as stated.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, but understand that it was a legal question for me, not an opinion or whatever. So I need to understand why we, the city, are legally with Avoxy.
It wasn't a legal thing. To me, it was
understood. But and basically, if you're telling me professional services and they know the most about the network and stuff, that is a legal avenue for us to go.
Yes, they are on our consultant roster as well. So that's where I picked the vendor from.
Okay. And they're part of the Washington State approved vendor list.
Yes.
For this kind of basically network analysis, design, and
yes. David and I sat down and looked at the professional service contract I have listed as well, and he confirmed with me all those details.
And then probably not in public forum. I would love to hear how this change. I understand. I'll use a term that may not be. I understand what is called tech debt.
Yes.
In my vernacular, of old equipment no longer supported. You need to have it supported in case there's any issues. That tech debt needs to go. Okay, but it's not in this environment. I we've had several municipalities and other government organizations which have been taken down by external actors.
Yes.
So my question is, how does this action make us more secure? In addition to getting rid of that tech debt, but I don't want you to answer that question here.
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah, we can talk.
I'm not going to throw the cards on the table for whoever.
For our friendly hackers online, yes.
Or some aspiring high school kid.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'd love to hear that information.
Yep.
Offline.
Yep. Absolutely.
Or in some other form. Okay. Any other questions from Rachel?
Two things. First, it's a world that I'm not a part of, so I don't want to speak to anything that is technical related to it on those grounds. However, what I do know is that once upon a time, I had audio tapes, and then eventually they stopped making audio tape players, and I had to switch to CDs. So what I'm getting at is what you said was that you're kind of spreading it out over time, and it's a world that I don't know. But by spreading it out over time, is there any reasonable concern for future compatibility issues between stuff we purchase now versus say a year from now?
Not for no. This is a 7 to 8 year like life hardware. So for me, it's like, well, I just need 2 years to kind of at least a year to get everything to where I would like it to be as a director, and where we have good, better high availability of systems, and we know which apps we're running and where they're running, and to kind of just expand on that. So that's what I'll be asking. It's a 2-year process in this next budget. That's the whole goal of this process. And to me, I wanted the team to have like things, like I said, spread out into pieces that way. And I felt confident enough that brand new hardware is going to be good for a long time. This hardware right now is as old as 7 or 8 years old. So we need to move beyond that, even though it's, has the connectivity we need. It's just overly built and complex in this moment right now.
Good.
Yep. And then the other thing was the remaining appropriation is about 1.7 million. Now I was just curious of that remaining amount, if we think that the remaining need is going to be within that, or is there anticipated to be more need beyond that?
No, I don't anticipate more need. That's why I cut the budget 20%. We need to I'm trying to be nice about it to the previous crews. That I will say it's like nothing changed when COVID happened. Okay. And so for me, it's like they brought, Mike brought me in, the city brought me in to clean it up and to make sure we're running as clean as possible. And for me, it's just because of that. It's like nothing happened once COVID hit. And so there was no transition to, because a lot of the fat is the virtual desktops that we've been running that need to go down because we don't use them anymore at all. But they're still running right now. I had to we shut many of them off, but they're still running. So that's why I'm saying there's not going to be a need for more funding, unless there's I won't say that never, but I'll just say unless there's a catastrophic event that insurance doesn't cover.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, and also, I mean, the equipment we have today is functional.
It is functional, yes.
And what you're getting with the fiber, it gives you headroom in at least network capacity.
Yes, to increase
probably for the foreseeable future.
Yes, so we'll be able to do, right now we're going to do 100 gig pipes to each site. So that's an upgrade that this will take advantage of. The old equipment only has 10. So it's 10 times the speed, which right now doesn't mean much because we only have so many connections. But when we get to high availability in there, it's really going to help us be able to transfer things around the network a lot faster, especially if we're doing servers and things like that. And I can talk to you more about that offline as well.
Do you have your hand up?
No, not for right now. I have questions on here.
What's your password?
Monkey 1,
No.
2, 3. They have lists out there of most frequently used passwords. And for some reason, Monkey 1, 2, 3 is high on the list. Sorry, I digress. All right, and so this one, remember if we, this one's 223. The question I'm struggling is consent or worthy of discussion as part of the regular council. Did administration assume consent or in the, I didn't look at the agenda, the council agenda.
We never assume, but we certainly enjoy a good consent every now and then.
You're in North Bend, right? So if you're running for office, it's in North Bend. Anyway.
Unincorporated.
Oh, King County, all right.
King County then. I would be fine with consent on this one.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move this forward and put it on consent for the next council agenda.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to Agenda Bill 24097, authorization for continued legal service, Pacifica Law Group.
Good evening, council members. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward agenda bill request. We are seeking an additional $80,000 to continue the work that Pacifica is doing on legal matters related to zoning, building, water, sewer, code violations.
This is in addition to the last agenda bill we had, which was just. So there's been some agenda bills pulled, maybe I'm getting lost. So the last agenda bill we had was I thought was to continue their services to the end of the year.
That was Madrona.
That was Madrona.
Yeah, Pacifica Law was retained to initiate a code violation that started last year. It was originally for $50,000, and we are still continuing to work with them to complete that code violation.
It's been appealed.
Go ahead, that's questions.
Are we anticipating that we'll be able to recover the attorney's fees and costs that have been incurred to date? No.
No, our code is deficient in that, and there's changes to the code coming forth to council soon to close that loophole, but this case is not. That, I guess, I think if I understood what was explained to me correctly, it would have to get appealed twice and we'd have to win both times and then we could recover. The way our code is currently written. So we are going to recommend including attorney's fees as part of code enforcement actions.
And then my second question, the letter from 3/22/24 states that they will not exceed the $50,000 without written authorization. What is the amount that we've spent to date? And have we told them
I could get back to you on that. I don't have that number with me.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, or what do we think on this one? This is for $80,000
Above the 50.
above the 50. And what was for? So you originally had a budget of 4.7 in general fund for community development activities. We've expended 301. We have outstanding contracts for 583,000. Estimated labor, all that. We assume we have a current budget availability $739,000, which is sufficient to cover this $80,000 up. Okay. I can understand a discussion of we did 50, we're going to 80, so it's non-consent, but I'm not sure the discussion gets any further other than code enforcement activities are ongoing and exceeded the original, or are expected to exceed the original $50,000. I'm not sure that conversation is worth coming off consent for.
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's move this one forward as consent.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, discussions, legislative priorities. I'm gonna bring it for discussion in the next council meeting. Just as a refresher, our priorities for for this year. Again, we're the community center expansion, discussion about what to do about the property tax cap, affordable housing, and public safety, and that included police pursuit and juvenile access law, whatever. I don't know what. I think there's been some things done on pursuit.
Correct.
Is it still an issue?
Meeting with the chief to talk about it,
Okay.
about what the impacts have been since the law changed and what their position is on whether additional assistance there would be helpful.
Okay, so let's have that discussion in council coming up and go from there. And then the only other thing that I would add, and my question to you guys as well as the other council, if there are other things we ought to consider adding in there, let's bring it to next council. I think we ought to bring the parkway back on as an item for discussion for continued engagement. Another.
Yeah, just in having conversations with our legislators as well, they'd like to have a conversation about this before we send them a letter. So obviously they're dealing with budget constraints as well, especially from their ongoing operations budget. And while they've indicated that there may be some flexibility in terms of capital funds, they'd like to have those conversations in advance.
I got the same message.
Okay.
They'd love to have. I think maybe state and county, and we have some joint meeting with them and us at some time. So yeah, I don't want to blindside with letters.
And 18 is on there as well for transportation from last year.
Right.
Ensuring that the project went through, at least based off the copy that I had reviewed before.
Okay. I must be looking at different. All right.
Yeah, it should be on there.
That should be, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned that the battle got a little more uphill to close that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, on the police pursuits, just the very end here when it says in some property crimes, that just feels so vague. Like, why even say it if we're not going to enumerate what we mean by that? So, auto theft is very specific. Some unspecified property crimes, that could be a lot of things. That's a very wide net. So, personally, I'd just say I'd rather just get rid of it unless we really want to go through a comprehensive list of all the property crimes that we think should be covered.
Right. I mean, right now, well, prior it was unless there was danger or something.
Right.
Leave it alone.
They've already updated it to some degree, the law in the last session.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's bring all that to next council, have that discussion. We'll come up with hopefully a list at that stage.
Excellent.
All right, we'll go with that. And let me get back to the agenda. What else we got on there? I can't read that from here. Oh, I suppose I can read it from here though. City council regular meeting agenda document. Why is that a link? All right. So the proposal is, let's go and scroll down. We'll start at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. We'll call pledge of allegiance hearing, ceremonial oath office. We're all gonna have, oath office, police officer, Jack Yang, and appointment of Economic Development Commission and Arts Commissioners.
Yep.
Okay. Please note that change on 110 to include Arts Commission. Presentations, and we'll have proclamation of Hindu Heritage Month. And public comments and consent agenda. At this stage, we've put the, we got anything left down in F&A? I think we've moved.
I don't know.
The legal services has moved up the consent agenda from F&A. And I believe also the network infrastructure moved up to F&A. So those can move up to consent. No items left under F&A.
As well as the residential sewer connection from Parks.
Yep, that was out of Parks and Public Works.
Right.
And then we've all right, and then on the ordinance municipal code amendments titles 1450 implementing Senate Bill SB 5290 will be an ordinance. It'll be first reading Monday.
Yep.
Which committee did that come up through?
Community development.
Community development, all right. And then revising corporate boundary of city of Snoqualmie to include a portion of 384th Avenue Southeast right away. That came up through Parks and Public Works. That'll also be first reading Monday.
Yep.
All right, public safety currently has no other agenda bills, community development, no other agenda bills. We will have a presentation, I assume, and discussion on Parks Recreation, Open Source and Trails Plan Update. And the agenda bill 24 residential sewer connection, I believe that was moved under consent, so that will come off. F&A agenda bills will come off. We will have committee of the whole and then into reports. And we've got placeholder for 2 executive sessions. Any revisions or comments other than what we discussed? Unless there are objections, we'll take that council agenda as approved. All right, council agenda as discussed is approved. All right. With that, I think we should be pretty close to the end of the agenda. Rest of them are informational only, things discussed in the future. We're not going to do the executive session with that. Anybody object to adjourning? Nope. Hearing no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you all.